Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host, Advocate Tulo Hoyane. Let me take this morning the issue of Dr. John Hlophe further. There we have it. The Western Cape High Court has issued an interdict that says Dr. John Hlophe must step aside and not serve, at least for the moment. He must not serve on the Judicial Services Commission. You will recall that Dr. John Hlophe is a former judge, and Dr. John Hlophe was impeached for having been involved in that, in that rather unsavory conduct of trying to enlist two other judges to come up with a favorable judgment to Jacob Zuma in the many trials that Zuma faces before the courts. So Dr. Hlophe, as a result of that less than acceptable behavior, was then impeached. Dr. Hlophe then got nominated to parliament by his party, the MK party, and he has since been nominated by that party to serve on the Judicial Services Commission. This is the very Judicial Services Commission that impeached John Hlophe. Following his appointment or his nomination to serve on the Judicial Services Commission, the Western Cape High Court now has to deal with the issue whether, his appointment to serve on the Judicial Services Commission, the very body that impeached him in the first place, was a proper decision. Was it a rational decision? So the Western Cape High Court has said, well, in the interim, what will happen is Dr. John Hlophe will be interdicted from serving on the JSC. Now, the second leg of that inquiry will then be, was the decision by the Speaker of the National Assembly, under the circumstances, a rational one? The test here is one of rationality. In other words, to break it all up and unbundle all this, what it really comes down to is this. When the Speaker of Parliament saw in Dr. Hlophe as a member of Parliament, was that decision a rational decision? Was the decision to accept him to serve on the Judicial Services Commission a rational decision? Now, how is that rationality going to be determined? This rationality will focus on the issue of whether a person in the form of Dr. Hlophe, who has been impeached by the Judicial Services Commission, how then would you justify the rationality of appointing him to the same body that impeached him in the first place? Was that a rational decision? This is not going to be an easy one, because it places an onerous task on the Speaker of the National Assembly. Remember, people are appointed to the National Assembly or serving the National Assembly at the behest of their political parties. They are simply nominated to serve by their political parties. And more often than not, the Speaker just rubber stamps those nominations and boom, they are parliamentarians. But what the Western Cape High Court is saying in this instance is, was that appointment a rational one? And that will, Dr. Hlophe, is really in a fix here. And the court also, like I said earlier, places a rather onerous task on the Speaker of the National Assembly, because I don't think in the past the Speaker has ever been seized with that, or has ever exercised, that oversight to say, is this person, though he's nominated by his party, a fit and proper person? Was the decision to nominate him to Parliament a rational one? I think more often than not, the Speaker has just rubber stamped whatever the political parties put before him or her. So there you have it. I think, like I indicated earlier on, I don't think Dr. John Hlophe is a fit and proper person to serve on the Judicial Services Commission, the very body that impeached him in the first place. I don't think the whole thing will pass the rationality test. I don't think it was a rational decision. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Unfortunately, Dr. John Hlophe is again, hogging the headlines for all the wrong reasons. And well, we'll see where he takes the fight. He might, take it on, although it's not a usual thing. It's not a usual thing to appeal interim orders of the courts, but he might take this matter up until up to the constitutional court, and maybe we'll get a final determination of whether his appointment to the Judicial Services Commission, the very body that impeached him, is a rational decision, and the case will hinges on that. If it is found that the decision was not a rational decision, Dr. John Hlophe will not serve on the Judicial Services Commission. So that's about it for today. Let me thank you for those views which are coming in, and the subscriptions are also flowing in. Please kindly subscribe and support this channel. We need your support. Without your support, this channel really has no future. Thank you very much.